Yo guys, what's going on? My name is HackingIsFreedom and welcome to the 27th episode of What Was Cut, a series where we take a look at what exactly was cut from our favorite games. Today we're going to be talking about LittleBigPlanet 2. This is actually my favorite LittleBigPlanet game in the series, and I spent so many hours playing it. In my first LittleBigPlanet video, I mentioned I got a good amount of rare DLC, but this is where the collection really grew. I managed to get the beta test vest, the PSP launch t-shirt and cap, the LittleBigPlanet 2 launch t-shirt, which was actually one of my favorite costume pieces ever, the PS Vita launch t-shirt, the LittleBigPlanet karting launch jersey, the 7-Eleven Slurpee shirt, which I also just loved, and the Target racing outfit. I literally collected everything I could in this game, and I had such a fun time doing it. Anywho, let's bring down the Negativitron and figure out what was cut. Okay, textures are up first, and as you probably guessed, there's a lot to go over, so I'm just going to go through them quickly. This group of textures are earlier pins from the Move Pack DLC. We have earlier versions of pod backgrounds from Da Vinci's Hideout, the Factory of a Better Tomorrow, the Move Pack, and the default background. This is an earlier version of Clive's texture, which you can see much better here. He also has some earlier face textures left over as well. The warning indicator from the DC Comics level kit originally had a much more basic placeholder looking design. These four icons are earlier versions of the Move Pack's music icons. This texture at one point was used as an earlier level icon for the Factory of a Better Tomorrow. However, the texture is labeled as Clive Boss, so there may have been a different boss plan for this area at an earlier point in development. The Sackboy rating icon originally used the white stitch fabric, and it looks like these old versions were screenshots taken in-game and they just cut off Sackboy's body. This is an early version of the Versus level icon. It doesn't really indicate it's a Versus level in any way, so that's most likely why it was changed. This texture was used as a simple placeholder level badge for the Cross-Controller DLC. These 5 icons can be found in the files of the Move Pack DLC, and they indicate more sequencer instruments were going to be added. I wonder why they cut these. This pin was removed from the DC Comics level kit, and to obtain it, you needed to place a Joker smile sticker on Batman's face during the Joker level. Another strange thing to cut if you ask me. This is an earlier version of Eve's facial texture, which you can see much better here. Left over in the data for the DC Comics DLC, there's a few earlier versions of music icons for Through the Fire, On Thin Ice, Power Trip, and the 8-bit version of Beyond the Call of Duty. Also in the DC Comics DLC, there's earlier level icons for the Watchtower, Trouble at the Temple, A Chemical Overreaction, Ice Cold in Alaska, and An Appointment with Doom. This texture I believe is of a developer's face, and it shows up when something in your pocket doesn't have a proper icon. It seems like there were once plans for the Horrible Gas to be included with the Danger Tweaker, indicating it could have turned things into Horrible Gas with logic. This texture is of a completely removed music track called Bonobo. It's unknown where it was supposed to be heard, but this texture can be found in the data for the Move Pack DLC. And we also have some earlier music track icons for Absolute Power, the Horror Stinger, the Meanie Stinger, Panic, Suspense, Disaster Strikes, and Desperate Romantics. This texture is left over in the data for the Move Pack DLC, and it seems to be a bunch of concept art images mashed together. Here's a quick look at what it looks like in-game. This advanced color palette texture was originally used for the paint tool. A similar texture was actually used in an earlier version of the first LittleBigPlanet for Poppet colors. There's some older versions of the various superhero icons, like this one for the capability, this one for the race minigame, and this final one is for the zone control game mode. Lastly, we have a few earlier level badges from the Move Pack. The first 2 were used as placeholders for the 5th and 6th levels, and these 2 were used as placeholders for the 2nd and 3rd minigames. Onto the cut outfits, skins, and costume pieces. And we're going to start with the outfits. These 3 animal costumes look like they would have been a part of another Animal Pack DLC, but all of these outfits are labeled with RSBS, indicating these were going to be a crossover DLC from Run Sackboy Run. With some modding, you can actually get these costumes back in the game, and they all appear under the exclusive content category. Same with this American football outfit. It has the same labeling as the other 3, and its outfit was actually planned to be released in the first LittleBigPlanet, but it was sadly cut from that game as well. With some modding though, you can bring it back, and I'm actually not a big fan of sports, but I honestly think this outfit looks really good. The Frozen Costume Pack was originally planned for LittleBigPlanet 2, and you can see the Sven outfit was originally intended for Sackboy. However, this DLC was pushed to the 3rd game, and the outfit was changed so it can be used with Oddsock. Once again, with some modding, you can force this DLC to load, and it even has its own proper DLC category, so it must have been a very light choice to push it to the 3rd game. Clive's player outfit was highly unfinished in early builds, showing a much more basic version. This is actually an even earlier version of Clive than the textures I showed at the beginning of the video. Sadly, the outfit itself hasn't been recovered, but just the icon. As for skins, there's actually quite a few that have been cut. We have a sponge skin, some weird Flora skin labeled as Da Vinci Fabric 01, a Flora wallpaper type of skin labeled as Victoria Wallpaper, a futuristic skin labeled as Garage iRobot, a strange grayish skin that honestly looks like pavement, which is labeled as Garage Foil, a pretty cool looking cardboard type of skin labeled as Factory Wall, this awesome gold skin labeled as Eve Gold Leaves, a grassy type of skin labeled as Eve Leaves, this strange marble looking skin labeled as Cosmos Clay, a silver diamond shaped skin labeled as Garage Fabric B, and this plain red skin labeled as Da Vinci Fabric B. The only two skins that were changed is the Tron skin and the Wooden Knight skin. The Tron skin was strangely changed to look a lot more basic, and the Wooden Knight skin originally used the LittleBigPlanet 1 unknown skin icon. And finally, as for costume pieces, the only fully cut costume piece is this PS3 controller. I'm not entirely sure why they cut this, but it was only seen on a 1.0 version of a specific developer build. The only other changes done to costume pieces are just some color changes. The disco shades were originally red, and the flippers were originally green. We're now going to talk about the various cut materials, and surprisingly, there isn't that many. First up is this dark glass material, labeled as Garage Glass Blue. I have no idea where this was supposed to be given out, if it was supposed to be given out at all. This material was only found in the files for the private beta, so it was probably cut pretty early on. These four materials were supposed to be given out in the Move Pack DLC, but were eventually scrapped. The first one is labeled as Rusty Pipes 01, the second one is simply labeled as Matte 02, the third one is labeled as Lunar Buggy Tire, and the last one is labeled as Speaker Wall 01. This material was supposed to be given out in the Muppets Level Kit DLC, and it's labeled as Attractofelt. Interestingly, two of the other textures that make up this material have been scribbled on by a developer. These two textures are earlier versions of the chrome and brass materials. The chrome material is labeled as Cloth Earth Factory Chrome, so we can assume this was originally used on Clive's Earth, and the brass material is labeled as Cloth Earth Victoria Brass, so once again we can assume that this was used on Victoria's Earth at an earlier point in development. These two textures, I'm very unsure on their purpose and where they were supposed to be used. The first one is labeled as Avalonia Glowy Glass, and it's only found in the data for the private beta. Judging by the name, we can guess it was used somewhere in the Avalonia chapter. The second one is labeled as Cosmos Pop-Off Pink, and I'm really not sure where this could have been used. I originally thought this may have been used for the Negativitron's mouth, as he used to be called the Pop-Off Menace, but that's just a wild guess. Finally, the artisan paper material was changed slightly from the beta builds. It originally featured a brown leaf within the pattern, but the final game removed this. It's time for the music, voice lines, and sound effects, but honestly, there's way too many to show in this video. So I'll just go over some of my favorites. If you want to check out more, I highly recommend checking out the Cutting Room Floors page on the cut sounds. Link will be in the description. Anywho, we're going to start with the music first. I'm probably going to butcher this, but I believe it's called Que Esta Note, and here's a quick sample. This was the music pack icon, so it's obvious it didn't get that far in development. This next song was found in the files of the private beta, and it's just labeled as Bottleizer. I found it pretty cool. Here's a sample. As for sound effects, there's actually some pretty strange ones. These first ones are of different raven cries and squawks. I honestly have no idea where these were supposed to be used, but I find them very interesting. Next, we have some weird sound effects all labeled with bad guy or good guy, and I believe these were going to be used for the also cut stitchlings that were supposed to appear in the Move Pack DLC, and possibly in Victoria's lab. Here's the good guy ones first. And of course, the bad guys. The Negativitron's gibberish voice was changed quite drastically. It originally sounded like this, compared to the final version. The narrator had a few cut voice lines, but this one here was my favorite. It sounds like it was spoken by a developer, as this clearly isn't the normal narrator's voice. And I love how he mentions the interface isn't complete yet. That's pretty cool.
Here, I describe to you how to navigate the Craft Earth and choose a level to play. However, the interface isn't finished yet. So, take my word for it. It's as easy as 1, 2...
And now, onto the cut stickers, but unlike the first game, there's actually quite a lot less to talk about. So, this first sticker of Gonzo was cut from the Muppets DLC. These two planet stickers were supposed to be given out in the Cross Controller DLC. The one on the left is labeled as Gas Planet High Res, and the other is simply labeled as Red Planet. These 7 stickers were obviously supposed to be given out in the Move Pack DLC, but they were cut for some strange reason. Another sticker that I don't personally know where it was supposed to be used, but it's a simple chicken foot, and it was supposed to be given out in the Cross Controller DLC. This strange texture is labeled as Farm Ship Egg, and I can see this being given out in either the Factory of a Better Tomorrow or Avalonia chapters, but apparently it's a part of the Cross Controller DLC as well. This sticker is simply labeled as Game Arrow 2, and judging by the name, it was probably just a sticker used to show the player where to go, and it was also supposed to be given out in the cross-controller DLC. I personally believe this sticker was supposed to be given out in the Avalonia levels, or possibly in the Cosmos levels, as it just looks like it belongs there, you know? But this too was supposed to be given out in the cross-controller DLC. It's simply labeled as Grunge Sign, if you're curious. These 10 stickers are placeholders for various DLC stickers, and are labeled as DLC sticker 1 to 10. Lastly, a few stickers were changed from the beta stages. The first being the logo for the Factory of a Better Tomorrow. The Avalonia logo was changed from red to yellow. This controller sticker was changed, probably to avoid copyright with Atari. The wooden PS3 controller was originally just a sketch. And lastly, the wine glass was changed to a glass of milk, probably to avoid any reference to alcohol. It's model time, and there's actually quite a lot to talk about. Surprisingly, there's a lot of earlier models relating to the logic, so let's go over those first. So, we have an earlier version of the Material Tweaker, the Danger Tweaker, the Destroyer Logic Piece, the Randomizer, the Rotator, the Microchip, the Sackbot Brain, the Camera Changer, 2 for the Follower Logic Piece, 2 for the Anti-Gravity Tweaker, the Selector, the In and Out Mover, the Score Giver, the Game Ender, a few for the various Sackbot commands, and finally there's 2 earlier versions for the Notepad. There's actually one completely cut logic piece, which would have been a pin giver. This may have been removed for the fear of players creating inappropriate pins, or just because it didn't work right. I'm not sure on this one. These 3 models were used as placeholders for the items in the prize bubbles. Next, there's a bunch of random developer-made prizes that were supposed to be given out in various levels. These 4 models were supposed to be given out in Da Vinci's Hideout. These were supposed to be given out in the Factory of a Better Tomorrow. These ones were supposed to be given out in Victoria's Lab. These 4 were supposed to be given out in Eve's Asylum. Quite a few were cut from Avalonia, and quite a few were cut from the Cosmos as well. Last up for the models, we just have some decorations that were changed from the beta stages. This pin was originally yellow, the rose decoration was more purple in color, the dog snout was originally just a nose, a bit of blue was added to the calculator, the watch was pretty much completely different, and finally the handheld console decoration originally looked a lot like a Game & Watch, and that's probably why it was changed, to avoid copyright issues. Up next are some early cutscenes for the various boss levels. There's not really much to say about these, so I'll just let them play out. First up, we have the before and after boss cutscenes for the Factory of a Better Tomorrow.
I say, young sack thing, well done. Victoria said you might be over here. Those sackbots you rescued would be extremely grateful if they weren't just mindless automata. Still, they're safe now and will be taken to a safe place for, re-education. But how in Craftworld did you manage all of that on your own? I say, Clive, my dear fellow.
Oh, it's you. It's been a while, hasn't it?
So it has. But I see you've been busy helping out my young protege here.
Well, you know,
You should join our club. I mean the Alliance. We're actively recruiting.
Oh, thanks, Larry, but I'm a bit busy. I need to get back in...
Attention, puny mortals. No, pitiful rebels. Your insolence has not gone unnoticed. You may have overpowered my meanies this time, but soon you will surely die. I promise you, this factory will be the last factory you'll ever see.
Well, I certainly hope so. You haven't been taking very good care of the place.
Silence. As I was saying, you'll never make it out of here alive. Prepare to be destroyed. Now, let me see. Oh, is this still on?
Sack thing, be careful. Save yourself and protect Clive.
Oh, I wouldn't bother. We're doomed. I must say, I never doubted you. Now I've got my factory back, I feel like a new man. There I was, with nary a friend to turn to, and you strode fearlessly to my aid. You plucked me, yes, plucked me, from the very pits of despair and perched me once more atop the gilded throne of mid to upper level management. The Craftworld Factory Owners Guild of Craftworld will hear tell of your great heroics. I've always thought that adventure was in my blood, and now I'm certain. I will join the Alliance after all. I'll just leave my sackbots here to clear up. Oh, is that Da Vinci in another flying telly?
Thank heavens you're both all right. But we still don't know how many of those machines managed to escape and rendezvous with the sucker.
There's more? Oh, great.
An exciting challenge indeed. Soon we shall take the army into the cosmos and meet the sucker head-on. Chaps, I'm on the loo at the moment. I may be gone some time. Now, I need you to make your way to Avalonia to pick up the Sackbot army and meet Avalon Centrifuge, the leader of the Alliance. He's the face of science, you know. You may have seen him on the telly. Get going now. I'll meet you there.
Before and after the boss in Victoria's lab.
You don't hang about, do you? And I see you tidied my house as well. You are a gem. I had hoped that would be enough to shut down the wondrous machine, but alas, it is just too wondrous. Of course, I shall humbly take the blame for that. Yeah, that was me! I'm king of the world! Yes, behind that door is the last and most important power source. Would you be a darling and find an off switch or something? There must be one in there somewhere. I'll leave you to it. Ah, good luck! Woo! Well, I think we made pretty short work of that. Although, I don't remember a lot of it. It must have been the excitement. Dear me, there's one more. My goodness, look at all those Sackbots. They must have been reprogrammed to head toward that factory over there. The factory of a better tomorrow! You need to get that army together quickly, so I'm afraid you're going to have to follow the Sackbots to the factory and stage some kind of rescue. Good luck, Sackboy, and craft speed.
Before and after the boss in Avalonia.
Not bad. Not bad at all. I'm impressed. Of course, compared to Avalon Centrifuge, that's me, your performance was probably moderate. Moderate to fair. But then, it is tough being compared to one of the pioneers of interstellar rocketry. It's time for you to see my greatest creation yet.
Well, it's not exactly...
However, I have a teleconference with the president of... everything. The president of everything. He's an extremely powerful man, you know. I think Larry can take it from here.
Right-ho, thanks, Avalon. It may have seemed that up to now the Alliance was somewhat, how shall we say, disorganized. Mostly, this could not be further from the truth. What you are about to see is highly classified, top secret, and not for the hard of hearing. Shh, I've got to get it right this time. Behold, the Alliance's least worst-kept secret, huge spaceship!
You still haven't thought of a name?
What do you mean? Did you know that Huge Spaceship was built in Clyde's factory? So, how do we get in? Ah, thank you, Huge Spaceship.
My pleasure, Treasure.
Of course, if I can just remember the code... perhaps... No, maybe my birthday. Story of my ruddy life. Now what about...
We could, be in trouble.
Dearies, I'm afraid I'm going to have to arm your self-defense capabilities now.
You've done it now.
Man alive! Something, you need to calm her down. I'll get Avalon. I'm so sorry to disturb you, Avalon.
Oh, don't worry, that's okay.
But it was an emergency.
Larry, I'm just putting the finishing touches to my unified theory of everything.
You mean my theory? It doesn't really matter anyway. Look, we can't get into the huge spaceship.
That is a shame. Well, that scuppers our plans to save the cosmos, I suppose. Never mind, eh?
Well, hang on.
Yes, back to the drawing board, I'm afraid. There's nothing else for it.
What about Higginbotham?
Higgin who now?
Well, we built Huge Spaceship at my factory, but Higginbotham designed her. He'll know how to get in.
Oh, Higginbotham, that crackpot. Well, I heard he died.
He what?
Died, yeah. As surely as I invented the traffic light, Higginbotham's dead.
No, he's not. He went bonkers a few months ago and was taken to Eve's Asylum for the mentally alternative. He'll help, I know it.
Really? I'm sure he was hit by...
That sounds like a capital idea. Well done, Clive.
Well, dead, mental, it's all the same, really. I don't think we should...
Sackthing, go to Eve's Asylum and find out what's happened to dear Higginbotham. I'll let Eve know you're on your way.
And we actually have 4 for the Cosmos. 2 for part 1, and obviously 2 for the finale.
Well, these are the coordinates. Nothing but big, empty, black space. Black as coalface. Wait a minute, I'm getting a faint signal. Running diagnostics on my long-range sensors. Yes, I'm detecting a faint...
Your spaceship?
Oh, look, there it is. I'm arming my narrow-beam antimacassar lasers.
My dear girl, shall we go to battle stations?
Yes, Larry, I think that would be wise. Oh, don't worry, I'll clear up, it's no trouble. Quickly, please.
Pathetic alliance. I must congratulate you on your temerity. However, your actions will merely serve to accentuate your own downfall. How delicious that you feel so close to defeating me, and yet could not be further away. Prepare to taste the bitterness of inevitability.
Well done, everybody. Well done indeed.
I must say, that was most exhilarating.
I don't know what's sadder, that he had to die or that he never really learned to live.
Oh well. I'll put the replicator on. Who's for a cuppa? I say, capital idea.
Got anything stronger?
Larry, I am your father. Not really. You just don't know when to quit, do you? At last, the final trap is sprung. Never again will you see the beauty of the cosmos arrayed across the heavens. Never will you experience the joy of a baby's smile. Never will you share a sunset with your loved ones. Take a deep breath. It may be your last. Minions, destroy them.
Is he dead?
I wish I was.
Good. It's the end of the road for you, Avalon Centrifuge.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never hurt anyone.
Well, that's patently untrue. Take him away for re-education.
Lastly, here's an earlier version of the introduction. Well, since we were talking about cutscenes, let's go over the cut levels. Once again, there's quite a lot of levels that were cut or at least drastically changed from the beta builds. Like, pretty much every level from every Earth was in a very early state, so I'm just gonna go over some of my favorites. If you want to see more early levels, let me know in the comments. I'll upload a video on all the early levels from the earliest build of LittleBigPlanet. Anyways, first up, we have an early version of the Avalonia boss fight, and you can see the basis was kind of here, but it still needed a lot of work. It seems like you would have needed to attack the ship, rather than protect it like in the final game. There's also a bunch of random assets around the map, and even a duplicate of the ship's head. The Kling Klong boss level in Victoria's lab was way different. It seems that the spider robot type of thing wasn't even thought of yet, and the basis here seemed like you needed to destroy this production line by throwing objects into the gears below. A lot of this is still very early and basic, but I like the idea they were going with here. Victoria's lab was the most unfinished area in the beta stages, as even the introduction level was very unfinished. The intro itself is quite different than the final, and I find it pretty funny that the voice acting for Victoria is here, but her model wasn't finished yet.
Are you looking for a deal? Spellbinding antiquities, competitive prices, flawless quality? Then look no further. Welcome to Beth Escape's high-quality sackbot emporium. I am Victoria Ellington Agnes von Beth Escape, proprietor. Sackbots, as you're wondering, are robotic sack people. Useful and adorable. And completely biodegradable. Now, you look like a discerning... But wait. You're Lally Da Vinci's sackboy. Blast! And you'll be in need of a sackbot army, won't you? For free. Yes. I'll give it to you straight. I've got a machine to make them, but it's gone a wee bit wrong. A wee bit. Well, that's an understatement! My whole stock of sackbots disappeared overnight, and now the machine is just making abominations. Things that are not of nature. Still, all is not lost if you can help me turn the machine off. Come back to my house and we'll go from there.
Once the cutscene is over, this is where it spawns you. You literally can't continue because the logic to dissolve this block is broken, but we can just spawn past it. The entire level is in this extremely basic state, and it's basically a small tutorial level teaching you about the various enemies and the different abilities. There's actually another level called Simple Enemies, and once again, it's a basic level with a bunch of basic enemies. Also, here's a quick look at the level placements in the early version of Victoria's Earth. The Cosmos boss battle must have been a late addition because it wasn't even made yet in the beta stages. The first part just copied the battle from the level Huge Peril for Huge Spaceship, and the second part was extremely unfinished. It's basically just a small shooting gallery with a few broken sackbot friends. Very cool to see this in such an early state though. This next level doesn't have a name, so I'm going to call it Chowdown Showdown. This was a level cut from the move pack, and it was a versus level requiring you to feed this big guy with the most vegetables to win. I can actually see this level being pretty fun with other players. I really don't know why this was removed. Last up is another level cut from the Move Pack DLC, and it's called Defend the Center. It consists of defending sackbots from waves of enemies for as long as you can, and the so-called enemies are just random objects like an apple and a doily, so I'm not really sure if this minigame is fully complete or not. Time to go over the very few cut animations. So all the main leftover animations are all related to the controlinator. We have one for Sackboy getting hit from behind, one for getting hit from the side, and one for hitting something from the front. These next ones are kind of weird. These animations all have compact in their name, so I'm guessing these were animations for when entering the controlinator in its compact state, which you obviously can't do normally. The ones that have side in their name were most likely for when the controlinator side-mounted tweak is enabled. The last animation was originally planned to be used on the loading screen, but it was later repurposed for LittleBigPlanet Hub, although that never got released either. As we come to the end of the video, it's time for the oddities I found throughout the game. First up is this screenshot of a team versus game mode. You could have played 1v1, 1v2, or 2v2 depending on your party size. I don't really know why this was removed, but it could have been because it kinda would have made the main versus mode redundant. I personally like this version a lot better because the color outlines remind me of older team-based games like Team Fortress 2 or even Halo. This icon of a guitar was found in a beta version of LittleBigPlanet 2, and it's unknown if it was going to be a decoration piece or a costume piece. I'm pretty sure it was going to be a costume piece, either in the torso section or the hands section. Perhaps this was the original instrument a part of the mariachi outfit for Cinco de Mayo, before they obviously settled on the trumpet. Next, I just want to show off some Earth transformations from an early beta. A lot of the Earths in the beta were obviously very unfinished, but you can definitely see they pretty much had the look of each character's Earth planned out in this early stage. Except for the Cosmos. I mean, that's just drastically different. In another beta stage, this icon was used as a placeholder for the pin called Huge Air, which requires you to bounce off 20 different bounce pads without landing. I just kinda find it a weird choice for this pin specifically. Speaking of pins, there's some more placeholder pins found in the April 2010 build. I think the only ones that didn't make it into the final game were the first two. The first one required you to ace 20 levels, and the second one required you to ace 20 levels consecutively, which was probably way too hard for the younger crowd, so they just decided to cut it. In this very early level from Eve's Asylum, you can find multiple notes with some interesting developer notes written on them. And let's end off with an early introduction to the cosmos.
Mortal Hillary Higginbotham, you have successfully deactivated the security measures. Huge spaceship is grateful. Take a gold star. Proceed to the top of the class.
Thanks, I think. Come along, it's safe now.
Golly, that was close.
Wasn't it? Now, onwards to defeat Avalon.
Hang on. What do you mean?
Ah, well. Avalon's behind the sucker and he's trying to take over the cosmos. When he found out I knew about his evil plan, he tried to kill me. I escaped to Eve's Asylum. Come along.
Higginbotham, are you feeling quite all right? Avalon is an idiot after all.
Boy, I heard that. Yes, I tried to kill Higginbotham. Yes, I created the sucker. And yes, I fooled you all into letting me know all about your alliance plans. My minions are spreading out across the cosmos, wreaking terror and despair as they go. The sucker is more powerful than ever, and my contraptions are so devilish, so wily, you don't stand a chance. There's nothing you could possibly do to stop me now. Soon the cosmos will be mine.
You fiend!
I know!
Yes, Mortal Da Vinci?
It's time to blast off! Whoa!
After the introduction, you spawn in this little plane-like structure with another broken dissolver block. You get a quick message from a placeholder Avalon, and that's pretty much it. Super basic. And that's all I have for Little Big Planet 2. A big thanks to Elam Animations, Jesus420, Lindsay A 8061, Mr. Ninja 5033, Sacknana is cool, and Viceroy 44101 for this suggestion. I'm sorry that this one took a while to come out. I work on multiple projects and this one just kinda fell down the ladder. It was also supposed to be uploaded like last week on Friday, but for some reason, I had a hell of a time getting some of the beta builds working on my system. Like for example, when I installed one, it completely crashed my system, and every time I would turn it back on, it would just immediately crash again. So the only way I could fix it was putting it into recovery mode and completely wiping the hard drive. Yeah, it's been a little rough. I probably could have just used RPCS3, but I enjoy getting authentic footage from my console, and it also gives the old girl some life. Anywho, if you have a suggestion for the next What Was Cut episode, please feel free to comment down below. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.